When you're suddenly diagnosed with a chronic illness, you can let it consume you, defeat you, depress you, or you can choose to advocate for yourself and others.
My first reaction was, I told you so. I know me, I know my body. Something kept telling me to check on it. And I did. But then, as much as I wish it wasn't true, I was hoping he would come back and say, no, you were wrong. I felt relieved because I felt you really are in tune with your body.
That's National Kidney Advocate and two-time kidney transplant recipient, Nichole Jefferson. I'm Monica Fox, Vice President of Government Relations and External Affairs for the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois, and your host for this edition of The Journey Continues. This time, I'm excited to talk to Nichole about her journey to advocate for herself and others. Nichole, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Monica.
So take us back to 2003 when you thought you just had a stubborn flu. What was going on in your life and how bad did you feel?
Oh, wow, Monica, that's taking it back to the beginning. As you stated, I thought I had the flu. I just felt horrible. I couldn't do anything. And I thought it was just a flu that wouldn't go away. I had a pretty active lifestyle at that point. I was raising my daughter. She was in school in junior high, and I was trying to get her through. She was very active as well. So it was difficult to even say, wait, there's something really wrong with me. And especially at that age, I never would have thought it would have been something like kidney disease. So I went to the emergency room thinking, okay, I'll get an antibiotic and I'll go about my way. I'll feel a lot better. However, when I got to the hospital, they said, why didn't you tell us you had kidney disease? And I said, I have kidney disease? And they said, yes, your kidneys are not functioning properly. And in a joking way, I said, like dialysis type of kidney problems? Because I thought they were going to say, oh, no. They said, yes, dialysis. At that point, I was shocked, scared, nervous, all the things that you could think of.
Had you ever even thought about your kidneys before this?
Not really. I had a great uncle who was on dialysis, and it's funny because growing up, my grandmother, his, sister would always tell whenever we were drinking anything that she didn't want us to drink, she would say, "You're gonna be on dialysis like your Uncle William." So, growing up, that
Mhm.
was all I heard, my cousins and myself, because, we were at her house during the day. And, when I called my cousin and said, "Hey, I have kidney failure," he said, "Madea said if we didn't stop drinking sodas, we was gonna be on dialysis like Uncle William." But that was the only thing I heard about it. I knew he was on dialysis. I didn't know what that looked like, so I hadn't really given it any thought.
I think most people don't think about their kidneys until it becomes an issue. So at that time, you learned that the wait for a deceased donor kidney was what, 5 years?
At that time, yes, it was 5 years. That was 2003, so long ago, and they said, "Yeah, it'll take about 5 years for you to get a kidney." So, that was something else that put me in a tailspin of, "What do I do for 5 years?"
Yeah, and what did you do? How did you mentally handle that wait and survive that wait?
Monica, I don't know that I really did handle it well mentally. I, withdrew from a lot of people. People in my area didn't know I was on dialysis or anything because I'd always been taught to be strong, right? Never let anybody see you sweat. So I did dialysis. Of course, I've always been terrified of needles my entire life. So I did peritoneal until I couldn't do that anymore. And then I had to go to in-center hemo for a little bit to lose the weight to go back on peritoneal. I was working also. And so it was really a matter of me doing peritoneal all night, getting up in the morning, going to work, coming home, just scrambling to get something to eat and right back on dialysis. That was my life.
I know that wasn't easy, but how long did you actually wait and how did you feel when you finally got that call?
So the first transplant, I waited 4.5 years. I got the call. It was two something in the morning, and I felt relieved. I thought, "Okay, this is it. Everything will go back to normal." It wasn't until, I got there the next morning. I got the call at 2. They said, "Don't eat anything else. Be at the hospital at 8 o'clock." Fine. I got there at 8 o'clock. I was thinking it was just a matter of them going in and connecting and me, and I would be out by noon. Oh, Monica. And that it does not work like that. So I got there at 8, they're doing blood work finally around noon. I'm like, "What's going on? Why am I still waiting?" And at that point, that's when they told me, "Well, you're number 4 in line."
Oh,
I didn't know there was a line. "What do you mean number 4?" And they said, "Well, we call in 4 people, and so we have to just wait until," and it was, 10 o'clock that night
mm,
before they drew some lab. I had to do another dialysis treatment during the day. They had to draw some more labs. And it was at 10 o'clock that night we were in there, and they were saying, "Well, how do you feel?" And I said, "I'm just waiting to see if I'm gonna be the one to get it." And they said, "No, that's why you're back here. He's cleaning up the kidney now. We're rolling you in." And I was like, "Oh," because it was like I was high when I found out I got it. Then I went low that morning, and then it was just in a split second. I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, cool, good." I was just like, "Okay, things will go back to normal." Whew, and I realized things did not go back to normal for me, not at all.
wow. Such a roller coaster of emotions and so much to deal with and so much to learn. How was your healing and the process after transplant? Was it easy?
It was not. And if I go back and look, I didn't know people who had gone on this journey. I didn't know people who had been through this. I knew maybe a couple, but no one that I had nowhere, near the community I have now. And so the healing was slow mentally, especially. I couldn't get it together. Physically, I couldn't get it together. And I knew I still had to work. So I just felt like if I go back and look, I should have taken more time off to heal and get it together. But from the beginning, I kept having like rejection episodes or different things. It seems like things were just hitting me. And at one point, I even said, "Man, maybe I should have stayed on dialysis." That was in 2008 when I got the transplant. And 2011 is when I decided to just randomly move to Des Moines, Iowa. And I think being in different air might sound crazy, gave me a little bit more pep. It made me feel a little better. And that's when I was finally able to start doing things. And that's when I learned to advocate for myself and I learned about the communities and different things like that.
Well, I know that was very helpful to you to develop a community of other people that you could talk with and relate to and who would have an understanding of what you were going through. So you lived with that kidney transplant for quite a while. Tell us about what happened in 2016. Again, you weren't feeling well, right?
Well, I wasn't feeling bad, I will say that, but I just kept saying something kept telling me, "You're rejecting, you're in failure, you need another kidney." But my numbers, the doctor kept saying, "Your numbers are right in a line where they should be." No, and so I kept saying, "I need a biopsy, please." And he kept saying, "No, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it." Finally, after about 6 months of me asking, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go to Texas and get a biopsy. They will give me a biopsy there." And he said, "Okay, I'll give you what you want." And we did the biopsy. I was on my way to the Transplant Games of America. That was my very first one. I think that's when I met you, Monica. And on the way there is when he called and he said, "You know your body, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Yeah, your kidney is 90% scarred." So they wouldn't have even caught that because my numbers were still good. My creatinine was like a 2.2. So it was still in range with that many years out. And so, the first thing I asked, "Can I start looking for a transplant? Can I start now?" And he told me I could.
So you really advocated for yourself and got the answer that was important so you could start being proactive to get a second transplant. What was your first reaction when he told you that your kidney was 90% scarred?
My first reaction was, "I told you so." I know me, I know my body, something kept telling me to check on it, and I did, but then as much as I wish it wasn't true, I was hoping he would come back and say, "No, you were wrong." I felt relieved because I felt you really are in tune with your body. Yes, that's true. There was something wrong. So immediately after that, I mean, I like I said, I was on my way, but I started making calls and I started calling all the places that I knew had a pretty quick wait list. And I was like, hey, I need to get on the transplant list. I need to get on your transplant list. And I started from there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. As your friend, I know that you desperately did not want to go back on dialysis. So, what did your search really look like? I know you went to several transplant centers.
Oh, Monica, it was hard. It was hard trying to fly to different places because that's what I did. At that time, I was living in Iowa. So my first thought was, of course, I'll list there. Okay. My second thought, I'll go home. I'll go back to Dallas and list. So I did that. And then I thought, I'll go to Houston. I went to college in Houston. My uncle lives in Houston still. I'll go there. And then I said, "Ugh, let me go to Nebraska. Let me go to Mayo in Rochester." So I just started doing all of those because as you said, all my friends, y'all all knew I was not trying to go back on dialysis. My goal was to beat dialysis this time.
How did your doctor react when you pushed back about dialysis? Because I know he wanted you to start.
Oh, yeah, we bumped heads. So my doctor in Iowa kept saying, hold out, hold out. You're fine. You can hold out." But as soon as I moved back to Texas in 2018, they said, "Why aren't you on dialysis?" And I said, "Because I don't need to be on dialysis." And he kept saying, "Based on your numbers, you should be on dialysis." And I said, "No, I should not. That does not show dialysis. I'm not even feeling like I need dialysis. I don't look like, you don't see any fluid, any of those things." And he was very upset and he kept saying it every time he would see me. And he would say, "You're gonna crash. You're gonna crash into dialysis." I said, "Well, I crashed before, you know?" But that time, Monica, I had so much going on. I mean, I was part of so many advisory boards. I had so many things going on. And I just felt like, and I think this is a problem that we have as patients, being able to say yeah. So I kept going, going, going. And finally, in the following year, in 2019, I ended up with PCP pneumonia. And so, of course,
Mm.
and got up to 5 point something. And they said, "You have to get on dialysis." And I said, "Listen, do you not understand that my kidney is very angry right now? If that's why I'm at these 5 numbers, it will go back down." So, my doctor stopped really seeing me and started having other people in that practice see me because I was refusing. And finally, in 2020, when everything happened in March, let me back up a little bit. They kept telling me to go on dialysis, and I went to a well-respected doctor in Dallas who everyone respects, a nephrologist, and he wrote a letter saying, "No, it is not time for her to start dialysis." And that made them a little angry that I went to someone else, to get that. But, in 2020, in March, I went to the clinic and I said, "Hey, I need a note saying I can't go to work." And he said, "Nichole, you need to be on dialysis." And I said, "I promise I will start dialysis July 1st. I promise you." I said, "Because, my ankles are swollen, I'm feeling stuffy, I feel it." I feel like, like I tell people, I needed a little touch of dialysis. So I just say, "Okay, July, I'll start." So he just said, "Whatever, whatever." So I went home, wasn't able to work, because of the pandemic and they were trying to figure things out. And then April 23rd is when I got the call saying, "Hey, we think we have a kidney for you." So I was able to beat it just a little bit, but I was able to beat dialysis this time.
So, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Most centers had shut down doing transplant surgeries and surgeries in general, and they call you and they have a kidney for you.
Yes.
Other centers had passed on it.
Mhm.
What happened and what did they tell you about that kidney?
Monica, I got that call, it was 2 something in the morning again. And when I looked, I said, "Why is somebody calling me at 2 something in the morning from Iowa? It's a 515 number." And I answered the call and, she said, "Nichole, this is Nichole from Transplant. I think I have a key for you." I said, "Oh, okay, do tell." She said, "Yeah, yeah, we think we might have something for you, but I want you to think about it." And so by that time, I put the phone on speaker so my daughter could hear the conversation, and so she could help me make the decision. And they said, "Well, this person has been in jail for over" I'm sorry, "has been in jail for a 72-hour period within the last 12 months. This person has exchanged sex for money. This person has had sex with IV drug users. I'll call you back and you let me know." I said, "You don't have to call me back. Yes, I want this kidney." I looked at my daughter and she said, thumbs up. Yes, we'll take it. And so she said, "Okay, well, we need you to be in Des Moines in 5 hours." I said, "Okay." So, when you're listed in other places, a lot of them will have you have a angel flight set up. So in case you get the call, they called Angel Flight and said, "We have a kidney for her." So they had to send an ambulance to my house to take me to the airport and then to fly me to Des Moines. Like you said, we're in the beginning of this pandemic, so no one knew what happened. So I kept saying, "Can my daughter come?" And they said, "We don't know. We just don't know. We don't know what's gonna happen." And
Right.
they said, "You can just bring her. I mean, all we can do is turn her down." So we were able to get there. So I got there early that morning and I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" Forgetting again how long it took to get that last one. And I was like, "I'm just ready. So what's going on?" They said, "Well, the kidney is not here yet." I said They said, "The kidney is coming from Washington." I was like, "Oh, so I could have slept a little bit longer."
So, speaking of your daughter, how has this impacted her life, this journey of yours, which I know, having one daughter myself, your journey is her journey?
Yes, yes. And I think sometimes we forget about it or we don't realize how it impacted them until they become adults, right? The good thing it did, that's why she's in the medical field. She works in cancer research now. Now that I'm okay and fine, but it's made her overprotective of me. And she gets
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Very nervous about anything I do, and I get it, she saw her mom sick for years, for 20 years, and so now she's still like, "What's going on? I need to know, how you're feeling. If I just hop a little bit, Taylor is what's going on?" I realized later on how difficult it was because she went through, junior high, high school, colleges, and things like that while, I was sick and going through transplants.
And so, how are you feeling now?
Oh, Monica, I feel good. I feel great. One of the things that people always say is, "Don't take the risky kidneys. Don't take the risky kidneys." But I feel better than I have with the other kidney. I feel better than I did before I knew I was sick and started dialysis. I just feel so good, with this. So I'm great.
So, what does that look like in your daily life in terms of energy, work, your advocacy? What does it look like?
Daily life has changed so much. That's why I love y'all because my friends get it, right? Y'all understand the reason I'm on the go, the reason I'm trying new things, the reason I'm here and there because wasn't able to do it for so long. But to other people, it looks like, "You need to slow down. What are you doing? You don't have to do everything." But people don't understand I missed so many years. So it just feels good to get up and do what I want to do. It feels good to be able to tell people, "Yes, I will be there," and know I can show up instead of saying, "Yes, I'll be there," and hoping like, "Oh, can I make it?" And then when the day comes, not feeling like I can make it.
And speaking of being on the go and all that you do, talk to me about some of the advocacy work that you do, some of the groups that you are a part of.
Monica, I can't.
I know it's a long list. Give me like the top two.
I'm gonna say what I have going on this month. I have, of course, the one that we serve on together, the Kidney Precision Medicine Project, and I've been on that since the beginning, so I think we're in year 13 or so. Even to see the way they've evolved, even including patients. Another one is I am on the governor of Texas, he appointed me to his chronic kidney disease task force this month as well, and I have the study of the APOL1 gene. So that's the Apollo project. So those are the top 3. Others are little consulting things, with pharmaceuticals or things like that.
That's awesome. And then just being a bright star in the community and encouraging others is something that you just do naturally too.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
After everything you've been through, what advice would you give to someone who feels like something is wrong, but their doctor just won't listen?
This is not gonna be politically correct. It's just gonna be me.
Just tell it like it is. Just tell it like it is.
If your doctor will not do what you say, find another doctor. Start interviewing because I'll tell you something, Michael. What I told them, it's an honor to transplant me. So I need to trust you and feel that you are listening to me in order to give you that honor of
Yes.
transplanting me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being outside the box, really, but sometimes. But if they aren't listening to you and explaining things to you, find another doctor. There are plenty out there.
That is a fact. You can make a choice for yourself and move on.
Yes,
And so, for someone who's just been told that they're in kidney failure or that they need a transplant or dialysis, usually the first thing they hear is you need dialysis. What's one message that you would want them to walk away with from your story?
it gets better. It gets better. That's all I can say. Because I never thought it would. I never thought if I go back to '03, I never thought it would get better. I read something online that said, I never thought one day I'd wake up sick and never get better. But I will say, just keep pushing on. It does get better.
That's good advice. Thank you, Nichole, for sharing your powerful story with us. It is very encouraging, and I know that someone will definitely benefit from hearing it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Monica. I truly appreciate this.
Nichole is a national professional kidney and health equity advocate who continues to advocate for herself and for others and is making a major difference everywhere she goes. For more information about kidney disease, kidney transplants, and opportunities to advocate, visit nkfi.org. I'm Monica Fox, a 2-time kidney transplant recipient, and this is The Journey Continues. Prevention is a key part of our mission at the Kidney Foundation. That's why at the end of each episode, we share a health tip.
Here's today's health and prevention tip. Common drugs such as nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen are known to cause kidney damage and disease if taken regularly. Such medications probably don't pose significant danger if your kidneys are relatively healthy and you use them sparingly. But if you're living with chronic pain like arthritis or back pain, contact your doctor to find ways to control your pain without damaging your kidneys.